Electrocast.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, I'm the founder, and my mission is to help ethical entrepreneurs and holistic healers to find their voice through spiritual coaching and podcasting. I'm honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through healing, kindness, innovation, purpose, and spirit. Understanding that to create collective change, we need to be the change. It all begins with us. Hey, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to let you know that you can now grab my album of guided meditations. It's called Sourced by Spirit and it's on all streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, YouTube Music, and many more. There's 11 guided meditations ranging from 4 minutes through to 10 minutes to help you reset your mind and your body at any time. Okay, now let's get on with the show. Junaid Ahmed is the founder of Humble Zone and creator of Home Studio Mastery, designed to teach you how to build your home studio. He has 2 decades of video production experience and designing websites and apps focused on a systematic process and seamless user experience. He provides podcasters, speakers, and content creators with a comprehensive plan for their studio equipment, lighting, and layout. He also enables video creators to create effortless content in a comfortable and impressive home studio setting. He's the author of Mastering iPhone Video Production, 7 Stages of Home Studio Evolution, and host of the Hacks and Hobbies podcast. He also speaks frequently at national events such as Podfest, Podcasting Made Simple Live, and multiple virtual summits. There are so many tips and hints in this episode to help you look and sound better in front of the camera or in your own home studio. Welcome, Junaid, to the Ethical Evolution.
Thanks so much, Bindi, for having me. Super excited to be here.
Now, we've been trying to catch each other on opposite sides of the globe for quite some time, so I'm really pumped that you're here with us, and you're joining us from Washington, and it's early morning. It's, just after or almost dinner time here in Australia on Tuesday night. So thank you so much for making the time and getting up early. Now, for
Absolutely.
those...
So you're finishing up Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I'm starting Tuesday.
Yeah, we're on the same day though, so that's good.
100%.
Now, for those people who don't know who you are and what you do, can you go ahead and tell us?
Absolutely. So my name is Junaid, rhymes with lemonade, and I'm a home studio architect. I've been podcasting for 7 years, and I've been an enthusiast around technology for a very long time. And it just brings me so much joy to be able to, have this conversation with you, have this conversation with, and people that I bring on my podcast as a guest, and it's just amazing to see them make the transformation that they have over the years. So super excited to help a ton of people launch their podcast, launch their home studios and their brands. And I've been in this space for quite some time. And it's just exciting for me because I love technology, and that's the kind of like the background that I've had for a while.
And I think that's where you and I resonate quite a lot because my background is in digital and I've helped so many people start podcasts. But, most recently I have transformed my studio, or what it used to be, into something else because it's actually two spaces in one now. So
Nice.
for me, you can probably see my background's changed a little bit compared to what it was. I don't use any filters or anything like that. But I think what I love about the work that you do is I'm just absolutely fascinated by cameras and lighting and also the backdrops that people use and the impacts that they make in not only the message they put across, but also, the kind of look and feel that they're putting out there is all part of their message. So I want to get all the secrets out of you today, Junaid.
All right, for sure.
So I guess if you were to look at me compared to you, I guess your colour balance is quite really cool. What are the secrets of good lighting?
You know, the secrets to good lighting is to have a lot of light in the right places, right? So I talk about something called talent lighting because we, as a person in the shot, are the talent. You want to make sure that you're starting with lighting yourself. And there's something that I do is paint with light. So I start with a blank canvas and then I start introducing different sources of lights to then light that space. Now, I'm not sure if this is mostly an audio podcast. We are recording video also, so we can. I love to do this demo
Do it.
if that works. Right. So usually when I come into this office space, I just have my overhead lights on. Now I have plenty of lights, to make sure that I can work. This one is blinky, so I start with turning off all the lights, and I start with the key light, which is the main light that's lighting me up. Now, if I were to just leave this on and continue to have this conversation, it works totally fine. Although I have made some changes to my camera from going from ISO 800 to ISO I think 500 now, just to get a little more crisper. But you just need to provide more lighting. So then I added another fill light to then see more of the room. And I was like, let's add some color in the room. So I added these LED lights in my bookshelf back here. Now it looks pretty plain, which is fine. I was like, okay, it took me a lot of time to put that together. But I was like, let me see if there's a faster way. And I found this floodlight here that basically lights up the entire background. You'll still notice that even though it looks really nice, my head is kind of like blending into the background. You notice that? So to create even more separation, you add something called a hair light. So now it lit up my hair and it hit up my it's kind of like a glow light, so it's basically lighting me up from the background. So when you do this kind of micro adjustments on your lighting, that's how it gets really clean and sharp.
And in terms of your camera, I know I've seen lots of setups and I've also done like web TV and a few different setups where you have a DSLR like actually hooked up to a computer and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I recently have gone from the old school iMac camera in the computer to an Elgato face cam, which has done wonders for my face, can I just say. I think cameras play a big part nowadays. They've got so much, features and functions that they didn't have before, like zooming in and like having, focus and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What are you using?
So I'm using a full frame camera by Canon with a 35 millimeter f1.8 lens on it. And that's what creates this blur effect. So even though my hand is, really close to my face, it's still
It's giving you the emoji.
But Zoom is enabled. Zoom has the reactions turned on. Anyway, so it's out of focus because this is a built-in functionality for cameras that people and photographers have been using this technology and this physics of camera photography for centuries, right? Because camera's been around for a long time. The f-stop, the ISO, these are the different. Sorry, the f-stop and the focal length are something that are part of the lens, whereas the sensitivity or ISO is something that's part of the camera body or the film itself. So if you can understand what the f-stop means and the focal length means, you'll understand a lot about cameras. So I tell people if you want really good quality image, you need to start from the source. So having a good camera definitely helps. And then having good lighting, I can use any camera now and I'll look, very similar.
And your backgrounds. Now, you've got a bookcase behind you, another screen behind you, and some neon lighting, and it looks like some sound deadening panels behind you as well.
Yes.
I've noticed a lot of people that I interview, which are hundreds around the world, that they have different backdrops, and it kind of, I don't know, it tells part of their story, doesn't it? Like, how important is a background, and how does it make up your story?
It's kind of like your own personality. It builds upon the person. Like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I represent. Now, because I have kind of like a blurred background, you'll notice like up here, I have some characters from Star Wars, and these are these little Lego made these figures called contracts, and if I switch the camera angle, you see a little better
Yep.
of who these guys are. So this kind of like represents who I am, represents what I like, what I love to talk about. So superheroes and Star Wars, that's my jam.
I love it.
It's kind of like adds into who you are, and people connect so much quickly when they recognize something in your background.
And in contrast, behind me, I've got a little monk. I've got, some sound healing instruments and things like that, because I'm a meditation teacher as well. So it's all about, being zen here in the studio. But it's the middle of winter here as well, Junaid. So I'm a little bit cold. So that also plays an important part of keeping warm in the studio. I'm guessing you don't have the same problem there right now.
No, it's quite warm lately in here.
Now, you did some cool effects then when you changed your camera angles. Are you using anything like a Stream Deck or anything like that to, do your cool transitions or anything like that?
So Stream Deck is one way to do it, when you switch from one camera to another camera. I'm using something that's a hardware device. This is a A10 Mini Extreme. It basically brings in multiple cameras sources into this device, and then I can switch from one camera to the other camera.
Yeah.
And that's mainly the reason I got this, is so I could teach better. Showing off the different angles. Like for example, when I press this one, you can see what I'm looking at essentially. So this is the device right here that lets me connect. And cool part, this company is actually based out of Australia. So every time there's an update, I get to see an Aussie explaining what the new features they've got in there.
Us Aussies are pretty innovative down here, as you've probably seen with all the
very innovative. Like I think Rode microphone is also based down there.
Yes.
See a Rode mic, in your setup.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely love Rode equipment, and I'm actually using a Rodecaster Duo as we speak. But
Nice.
it's when we get to talk about equipment, no doubt you get a lot of questions about this as well. I know I do, because there's all different levels of podcasters and streamers and that kind of stuff that they may want to invest a bit of money, they may not. What kind of general advice do you give to people? I try to tell them, meet them where they're at, but what kind of advice do you give to someone who wants to start out and make an impact?
Well, like you said, start where you're at. You don't necessarily need to go all out and spend the money.
Yeah.
Unless you're a business, and unless this is going to impact and is going to bring you more business, then you can count it as an expense toward your business, right? But it all comes down to your comfort level where you are. Like you mentioned earlier, you've upgraded from the camera built into your computer, the Mac camera, the iMac camera, or the MacBook camera into a face cam, which is considerably a little more money. And then the next step might be a DSLR camera.
Yep.
Next step might be more light. So recently I just published a book called 7 Stages of Home Studio Evolution, and each stage you're adding to your setup. You're adding gear to your setup to look better, to get that comfort level out of you. So my first recommendation: start with your phone camera, because it's going to be a lot better than what's on your MacBook. And actually, yesterday somebody had posted on Facebook how he's switched to using his phone camera, and I was like, that's what I tell people to start with. And there was this gentleman, he actually texted me later. He's like, do you really recommend iPhone cameras? Do you think it's better than the MacBook camera? Like, dude, just look at the size comparison. Like, just put your phone next to that FaceTime camera built into your Mac and see the size of it. And if Apple's enabled that feature, it's because they know the camera is better. In fact, we are in June right now, and just recently Apple announced they did a keynote on WWDC, and at the end of that entire 1 hour 40 minute event or video, it said at the end of it, shot on iPhone, edited on Mac.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like, wow.
It's incredible. Like, and there's short movies that are shot on iPhones now. It's pretty incredible stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all about the lighting. If you get the lighting right, you can use any camera to shine.
Now, one of my passions is audio, because, I'm also a music producer. But in terms of microphones, now, I've got to tell you, one of my bugbears is seeing people on TikTok holding the little Rode wireless in their face. Can we please stop that? Please, can we stop it?
I like that you brought that up, because one of my friends did the same thing. She's holding that same microphone in her face, and I texted her. I was like, dude, you should just plug it on your thing. She's like, no, that's intentional.
All right.
I was like, okay, it's a marketing gimmick that, hey, I care about you so much that I'm going to hold this microphone so that you can actually hear me.
I mean, if they've got the little lavalier, that's a whole different thing. But when they actually have the little square and it's got the little, filter on it.
One.
Yeah, that and they put it either in their cap or on their shirt. And it's like, please stop doing that. You don't need to. Stop it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, but they haven't read the books, or they haven't done enough, right, to say, hey, or they don't know better than that. They saw somebody else doing it. They're like, hey, that works.
Yeah.
It's working for me. Might as well do it. At least they're capturing good audio.
Yeah. And I get when it's a gimmick and it's kind of funny, but yeah, it drives me a little insane. But when we get to the more professional stuff, and I love that you said before, the evolution of studios, because when I started out, when I set up my first studio about 6 years ago, we used to use USB microphones and little laptops, and, we used to go and hire a studio out down the Gold Coast that Justin Bieber used to use, and it was a hot mess. And then I set this up here and got a Rodecaster in, got, Rodecaster mics in, and only recently upgraded pretty much everything, including camera, lighting, sound protection, everything. Just evolving as you go and improving those steps as you go. not only delivers greater quality, but it makes it an easier experience for you as a host producing content. Like it makes it so seamless to just press a button away you go.
Life is hard, but finding a really great podcast makes the days go by so much easier. Hi, my name is Blue Telusma. I'm a writer, an emotional intelligence coach, and the host of Humanize with Blue Telusma, a podcast where we believe that when you humanize everyone in the room, a great conversation is almost guaranteed. Join us every week here on Electricast as me and my guest co-hosts unpack big topics and interview even bigger personalities with a sense of humor and a dash of mischief. If you're looking for a new best friend in your head, we've got you covered. Electricast.
I absolutely agree, especially when the guest, because there's a lot more guests going around that don't have the experience. When the guests spend the time to get their audio right and their lighting right, the host is like, "Oh my God, thank you for doing this. You're not just doing, yourself a favor, but also you're doing a favor for the host on the other side, because now you have to spend less time in, cleaning up that audio." So I actually have a talk coming out on specifically on that topic in the next Podcasting Made Live podcast coming up on Podmatch.
Oh, nice. And that's obviously where we met was Podmatch, I think, and we've also been connected on LinkedIn. But there's so much talent in Podmatch as well. And hi to Alex if you're listening, who's a joint friend of ours. But I think this space is evolving even further. What do you see happening for the future of home studios?
There are new entrepreneurs entering this space every single day. And I see that happening right in front of my eyes because I just graduated the 2023, 2024 class of students that I was teaching entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Right? So there's new people entering the workforce every single year. And they're going to look for information. They're going to look for advice. And they're going to step into this podcasting space. Or they're going to become an entrepreneur. And when you're an entrepreneur, you're working either from your home, you're working from a workspace. You're going to want to create marketing material. And if you have the right setup and you're bold enough to be in front of the camera, you'll need this information. So I think it's an ever-going thing. I mean, no wonder universities have been around for 150 years, right? So it's in education that we're teaching people through podcasting, through setting up their own space. So absolutely, it's going to evolve over time. I mean, iPhone technology is getting even better and better and better. Lighting, you still need good lighting. No matter how nice of a camera you have, you still need good lighting. And that's where it comes down to. Like, for example, when I showed you, this lighting setup versus the simple lights, overhead lighting, you could tell the difference. I have this really nice camera, but the lighting looked horrible because I just had one set of overhead lights. So again, it's going to continue to evolve, and people are going to be entering this space nonstop.
Now, I'm guessing your setup is in your home. Am I right, Junaid?
Yes.
Yeah, because he only
In my
just
basement.
got up.
I just woke up and ran down and turned the lights on, and I was ready to record. I mean,
Nice.
Is that friction free or what?
Absolutely. Yes, I love, and mine's right in the middle of my home as well, which I love. Like it's like my safe space. It's like my serenity. Like I come in here and it's where the magic happens. So I love having this space in my home where I can create pretty much whatever I want.
Yeah.
I guess my next curious question for you is, I've worked with a lot of people who are trying to get their message out there and find their voice. What do you say to those people who don't want to be in front of the camera and don't like the sound of their own voice?
Well, if they're in business and they don't like the sound of their own voice, make sure that you write a lot. Make sure you're doing a lot of blogging and writing, publishing books, because that's also going to get you out there in front of people. Now, I was that person who didn't like the sound of his own voice. It sounded funny. And this was like 20 plus years ago, right? I was like, I sound so hilarious. But over time, you get to know your own voice. You get to know who you are when you start recording. And now, and like over time, you sound the same way that you sound to yourself. Now, a lot of people say, I don't look good on camera. It's because they don't have the right lighting. Like I have people, they're like, I don't want, I look really bad on camera. I'm not photogenic, blah, blah, blah. As soon as they step into my studio and stand in front of the camera, I'm like, wow, I look that good. I'm like, yeah, it's all about the science behind the light, because it's literally science, right? You're controlling the lighting, controlling the flow of imagery into the camera. So it's absolutely.
Yeah. And I also was one of those people, I don't know, when there was that craze a while back of doing Facebook Lives. Don't do that anymore.
I remember that.
And I was like, oh, God, I can't do a Facebook Live. What if I say something wrong or, I stuff it up? But I've seen, look, I mean, God, look at me. I've got the whole setup now where there's a proper camera and lighting, and I never thought I would invest in that particularly for this kind of purpose. But it's come such a long way in such a short time. And I think we've really got to be open to being, evolving with the technology as it comes out, don't we?
100%. And it's okay if you're afraid at first, but you just got to put in the reps. And something that I've worked with my clients that, walk them through a 30-day video challenge. And this 30-day video challenge, you don't have to post a video anywhere. You just got to practice with yourself and being in front of the camera, being in front of the phone, and just recording, answering a question. Because when you're focused on answering the question, it doesn't matter. You're not thinking about, oh my God, am I looking good? Am I, you now just getting the reps in. Something that I'd say was, you can buy $250 shoes that they wear running marathons, but you can't run a marathon as soon as you buy the shoes. Because you got to build up the muscle, you got to build up your stamina to be able to run that marathon.
Exactly.
The reps.
Yeah.
Started now.
Practice is what it's all about. And it just becomes second nature after you do that for so long. And after hundreds and hundreds of interviews, this is just second nature to me. I can just sit down and do what we're doing right now.
Absolutely.
So if anybody's watching or listening, it can happen for you too if you've got that same dream and you've got a message you want to get out there. I think that's super important. Now, I'm curious, have you got any do's or don'ts for getting behind the microphone and getting in front of the camera?
The biggest don't is don't use the laptop microphone. Even if you can get a tiny microphone like this one in front of you, it's better than using the microphone that's on your laptop, mainly because it's going to capture a lot of sound reflection from your room, and you're going to sound like you're in a room. In fact, I was recording an episode with another gentleman, and he, even though he has a headset on, I could hear all this echo in his room. I was like, dude, are you sure you have the right microphone selected? So he goes into Zoom settings. So I'm like, oh my God, I've been using the webcam audio.
Oh, no.
As opposed to the headset. So then he quickly switched. I was like, oh my God, this is so much better. Right? Because you can hear those reflections, and when you don't sound good, or when people hear you and the sound quality is not good, it's crackly and whatnot, they're going to move on to the next episode, next podcast. Because we like to listen to good things. We like to listen to music. And if it's a bad song or if it's bad sound, you're going to move on to the next song. So you want to make sure that you sound good So that's one of the main mistakes I've heard people make. Number two is not spending enough time or energy towards lighting. Right? Getting the right type of lighting in your room, or if you have a blaring window in your background, well, that's going to distract the camera. Just like it's going to distract you from your, eyes focusing on it. So make sure that you're taking care of those two main things to make sure that you sound good and you look good.
As podcasters, like audio is the heart of what we do. If it's poor audio, like people are going to lose a level of trust and they're going to move on. And so I know some of my favorite podcasts that I listen to have exceptional audio and also video. What would you say is your favorite podcast?
My favorite podcast, I think it's the one with two people talking.
Would it be this one? No.
it's this one. One of my favorites. One has been Tim Ferriss's podcast. That's something that got me into it. He's got. I don't know if he has. I've always listened to those podcasts. I've never seen them, but I see a lot of people, investing a lot of time and money and energy into their video setup. And I think Colin and Samir are some people that I watch. They have some good video quality. I do have some ideas for them if they could be better. But again, everybody's really close to the microphone, and that makes a huge difference on how they sound. So again, depending on how your place is set up, you can be close to the microphone and sound really great, or have a room that's really treated well so that you can still sound good even if you're not close to the microphone.
Well, my favorite podcast is the Andrew Huberman Lab podcast. And I know that he's invested a lot in video as well. And we see a lot of AI snippets being used in video nowadays, particularly in social media. Do you have any tips for people in that space in terms of how they can make the most of one record, use many?
Absolutely, and that's a really great question, because when you create a pillar content like a podcast, right, you can definitely take out pieces from it, and AI helps you get there faster, because before we would go and read through the transcripts, like, okay, this was a really good point, or as you're recording the podcast episode, you're taking notes down. I'm asking this cool question. He's got a really cool answer. I'm going to use this as a snippet. So AI gets there faster. And then the reason why people were reading these transcripts was because, well, the actual host and the guests aren't the ones editing the episodes. Somebody else is editing. So now they have to go through the transcripts. AI can do this much faster because you can ask it different questions and have different angles and pull out the most cool hook and cool, basically opening a loop in that question or in that reel that people will stick around to close that loop. And then, how did that really end? Like if you've seen any movie trailer, they're just opening a ton of loops, and now your brain is like, oh my God, how do I close this loop? I got to go watch the movie. Even though they're like, oh, you basically gave the entire movie in the trailer, but no, there's a big thing that they haven't told you, and you want to watch the movie to close that loop. So that's what you want to do when you're creating content from your big recordings. How do you keep the engagement and then bring them back to your show so that they get that loop closed?
I've seen some magnificent viral results just by doing that, and I think by, having a partnership with your guest as well is quite important. I've seen some guests that have just had longevity for months for me, and I think if you can find the right people, that are willing to share your content as well. I think that makes a big difference too, having that amplification once you get it out there, and not just do it once, like do it again later on, or do different snippets from the same one later on. Don't just do a hit one, move on. I'm seeing that work quite well for me.
Yeah.
Now, Junaid,
People forget. Yeah.
if people want to have a sexy setup like you and they want to find out more, where can they go?
All right, sweet question. So I have been doing this for some time. You can head on over to homestudiomastery.com, or if you want to learn more about it before you jump in and talk to me, head on over to homestudiobook.com, where you can download a free copy of my book, Seven Stages of Home Studio Evolution, where I walk you through all the different things that you might not be thinking about for your studio space.
Now, if you were to give me a rating out of 10, Junaid, how am I looking?
So you're somewhere around a 7 with the setup. A few things that I would change is, camera more up front and you looking at the camera,
Yep.
you being a little higher up in the frame. Lighting, so you have your lighting is basically it's an all room light. You might have a dedicated light just for your face, but if you can add in some more elements where the lighting is more focused on you, then also in the room, maybe darken that little room a little bit, so then you're more on focus. Those are some of the things that I would level up.
Love it, love it. And just for those watching at home, I do have an Elgato, what do you call them?
Face cam.
No, I've got the face cam and the light above me.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The key light, which I have fine-tuned, and I know the backlight is way too much. I know that. But yes, levels and all that kind of stuff I'm working on. But when you're using a huge Mac screen and you're a short person, it's good fun. But we've come a long way, and I'm a what did we say, a 6 or a 7 in my evolution? Like we're never perfect.
Right, exactly. You continue to grow, you continue to build upon where you start, and just evolve through the process.
Brilliant. Now, I got the last big question for you, Junaid. What's the change you'd like to see in the world, and how can we bring it to life?
Oh my God. Can we be more grateful? Can we be more grateful towards each other? I think that's the number one. When we are grateful, when we are thankful, when we have grace for each other, I think the world is going to be a much better place. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of that happening. I mean, towards in the pandemic, when it first started, there's a song, "The Absolute Love." It's by Foo Fighters. There's a rendition of the song that was done with at least, I think, 30 different artists that sang that song together, one after the other, and it's all about the love. It's all about you being intentional in how you present yourself and how you are to other people.
I love that. And I think that message is very intentional today. I've had one of those days where I needed that message. Thank you. Thank you, Junaid. Listen, I can't thank you enough for being a part of Ethical Evolution. And you've been such good fun and taught me so much. And I will level up my game and I will report back. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Bindi.
Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're ready to be the change and would love to work with me on finding your voice through spiritual coaching or creating your own podcast with impact, visit ethicalchangeagency.com. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's growing every day with great content and highlights you may not have heard on the podcast. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, and why not leave a 5-star review? If you're not following me on social media, you can find me at Ethical Change Agency on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and at DJ Bindi on TikTok and Instagram. If you're interested in diving deeper into the ethical evolution with me, I've created a membership program that allows me to bring you more in-depth exclusive content without relying on paid ads. My goal is to deliver members way more value than the cost of the subscription. Benefits include Ask Me Anything episodes. I've interviewed hundreds of people from around the world, so imagine what you could ask. Access exclusive bonus content only for members that focuses on the downloads I get through my conversations that include actionable tips. Support Ethical Change Agency and the Ethical Evolution podcast on its mission to amplify change makers who make the world a better place. Access to global connections who can help you make greater impact in the world. Meditate with me and discounted spiritual coaching or podcast consulting with me at 15% off. That value alone pays for your membership. For only $7 a month or $70 a year, you can access all these benefits of an Ethical Evolution Emergence membership. If you want to learn more and access these benefits, head on over to ethicalchangeagency.com.
Hey there, fabulous souls. I'm Stephanie Baklaan.
And I'm Eden Alpert.
And we're the hosts of the brand new podcast, Unapologetically Fab.
Get ready to join us on an amazing and real journey as we dive into life after 40 and own it.
We're all about changing the narrative, leaning into who you are, and living a life by your own design.
Join us as we embrace life unapologetically and redefine success.
This is Unapologetically Fab,
an Electric Cast production.
See you there.
Electricast.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily Podcast from Electricast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electricast.